Good afternoon, my name is Luis Zambrano. I live in Telluride, Colorado. I drove 6.5 hours to be here supporting the Cuban people because nowadays, for first time in 62 years in Cuba, people raise their voice for goodness, to say enough of poorness, enough of misery. Because unfortunately, we have a dictatorship in Cuba for 62 years. We have some kind of mafia family who handling our island like their own ranch. So basically, we Cuban people said enough, and we need your help, American people. We need your help because unfortunately, right now in Cuba, the Cuban government take the army to the street and they killing kids and old people with their guns. Right now, you can go to any media and you will see all the videos are around where you can see the proof. So we really don't know what other proof the world need to help us to intervene in Cuba because we are enough. All of us Cubans nowadays, from the last 7 days, we have different kind of feelings. Like we are so in control of our feeling, like we don't know if we're gonna be happy or we're gonna be angry or we don't know if we're gonna be sad or crying because it's not easy to handle this kind of situation. You have to understand us. Like for 62 years, it was forbidden for us to talk even to our family through WhatsApp and tell them anything against the government because anything they could say against the government, they just take our family away and they disappear then. So we're so proud right now because the Cuban people for first time, they did the perfect protest pacifically, you know? So we really need the help from American people.
What kind of help? What could we do?
We need some kind of humanitarian intervention in Cuba as soon as possible because people are dying. People are basically dying. Kids, old people have no even medicine, people have no food. People are dying from aspirin in Cuba right now. So definitely, I want to tell to American people, our main problem is not the embargo. The embargo is against the Cuban government. The embargo is against the family and the power. If they raise embargo, everything will be different. If they raise embargo, they're just gonna make the Castro family and Canel family and all the people in the government millionaires because they're already millionaires, so they're gonna be billionaires. So they have money, they have everything. They have all kind of hospital for themselves. None of them had the COVID. None of them had the vaccine. They said those prospect vaccine they made in Cuba. Why they don't vaccine themselves with those vaccines? Because they just trying to make some kind of experiment for animals with the Cuban people. You know, there are so many funny numbers where more people dying is where they vaccinate more people. So definitely they are not doing the things right.
So what you're saying clearly, and this is what I'm hearing from the other Cubans who I've talked with, it's about freedom. It's about an end to the repression.
Freedom.
It is not about COVID and
food.
Yeah.
We're not asking for medicine. We're asking for freedom because with freedom you can get everything. So we are in America. So we are in the symbol of the freedom. So what we begging to the American people is to help us to have our own freedom because you can make a war with armed people and unarmed people. So basically right now, the army from Cuba with guns to war, they just shooting people, innocent people in their houses. They are arresting people with the guns. They're just killing no matter what, just for the fact to think different. There is no way to permit that. So we as a Cuban have to protest. We need to raise our voice and we want to get here.
What is your story, Luis?
My story is I met my wonderful wife in Cuba 5 years ago. I came here, I used to live in Spain, and she was the one who forced me to come here. But unfortunately, the media in this country is so bad, and it's so distortionate because I'm a very intelligent person. I'm a computer engineer, and I was afraid to come here because the media made me think before I come here that was a bad country, which is not true. Which is not true. So I'm so proud to be here, and God bless America, God bless Cubans, and we just want people help. We just want the world help us. We don't want people give us their back because it's been enough. It's been enough.
How long were you in Cuba for? How long
for
did you
26 years.
26 years. And what are the biggest takeaways from your time in Cuba, your experience? What were the biggest things that you learned about communism, about the dictatorship, about that we should know here?
I'm going to simplify to you in only one phrase. Communists only produce misery. That's all what I can say about it.
So succinct.
Yeah, communists only produce misery. There is nothing else. Like, no matter what, however you look like, actually today, I received some messages from my family. I haven't heard from them since July 11th because we have like some kind of family chat, and I've been sending them all the info about what's going on in Cuba, and none of them replied to me until today when they sent me some pictures of one of my cousins being a part of the paramilitary group who hit the people in Cuba. So I feel so sad. That's why I feel myself like I have to be here. And I'm tired to be crying, I'm tired to be here, I'm tired to be my family's slave, because this is what Castro family did to all of us Cubans. They made us be a slave of our family. We're tired of that. We can't handle no more. We need the world help us. And unfortunately, Castro was a devil person. He signed with Carter a law to avoid us go there and help our family. Because if we didn't have that number 62 and 65 number of the law, of the American law, that avoid us to go there and help our family, we could have gone. We could have helped them. But there is no way. So all what we got now is our voices, flags, making noises, and send a message to the American people. Please help us. Please help us. We're not talking about in a week or in a month or in a couple of years. We need help now.
What kind of help would you like?
We need an intervention humanitarian. We need it. We need a humanitarian intervention. Because people are unarmed. People, even if we send them anything, there are more proof. There are so many evidence that we've been sending so many help to the people, but the government handling everything. There is no way to send people help if the government gonna handle it on their way. So we need humanitarian intervention in Cuba now.
And finally, I'm wondering, in Cuba, as far as the people, how big of a force is the movement for freedom compared to those who are wanting to be quiet or try and go along? How much momentum is there?
There is a biggest problem in Cuba. The communists, they organize themselves in a different kind of type of group depends your affiliation on the society in Cuba. So they make one for the workers, they make one for the students, they make one for the young people. So all of them are communists. So right now, what they force it to the people, they trying to make some kind of commitment with the people, like if you don't go and protest against the people who want freedom, you won't go anymore to school. If you don't go and protest against people who want freedom, you will lose your job. So that's the way they're doing it right now. So we really need help, because I think right now the 100% of the Cubans in Cuba, they want freedom. They want to have a way to survive, a way to be success in the life without any over control, because the government controls every single thing in Cuba, and there is no way to survive like that.
Anything you want to add?
I don't know. I mean, I just want help. I just want help from the American people. I want the American people convinced the actual administration to help us Cuba. We need help in Cuba now. That's all what I can say.
What do you make of how Biden's administration has handled this so far then?
I think Mr. Biden It's a time for you to wake up. It's a time for you to listen, you voters. It's a time for you to listen, the American people. Everyone knows, it's a fact. Cuba needs help. Cuba wants freedom. We don't want you to raise the embargo. The embargo is not the problem. If you raise the embargo, all what you're gonna do is just make the Castro family billionaire because they're already millionaires.
Libertad, 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 libertad. Libertad, 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 libertad. Freedom for Cuba! ¡Viva Cuba libre! Libertad, 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 libertad. ¡Contra asesinos! ¡Viva Cuba libre! ¡Viva! ¡Abajo los Castro! ¡Abajo el comunismo!
What's your name?
Manny Martinez Blanco.
And why are you here?
I'm here because I came from Cuba when I was like 2 years old, and I grew up in Dominican Republic, but I never lose the tradition I was raised in, and I always thought how unfair the government was, how they just stopped you from being who you are. They didn't give you a voice. The food is horrible. The hospitals are crap. They are the worst thing I have ever seen in my whole life. And I just can't bear to see my people being beat up, killed by their own government when they are the ones who are supposed to be defending them. And that's not fair.
So you came here when you were, or left Cuba
Yeah.
when you were two, to Dominican Republic first, you said.
Yeah, and then I came here to the United States.
And how old are you now?
In 22 of July, I'm going to be 14, but now I'm 13.
So one thing that I am hearing is that it is a lot of young people, younger millennials, older Generation Z, that are speaking out in Cuba and leading a lot of these protests. What do you think is going on with generation that is your age, maybe a little older or younger? What are they thinking right now?
Realization, I think. Seeing that this country has a lot of liberty, this country, you can protest freely without being killed. There's always going to be someone that's going to stop you if you do something wrong, but it's not going to stop you from saying who you want to be or what you want to say. And I think it's the realization that helps the new generation to come out to the streets and really help out. And I think also that Cuban citizens are also tired of this. No food, no 100% portable water, hospitals, transportation, architecture which is destroying down to the floors, children dying because of this, and I think this is totally unfair on them.
There are some Americans who look to Cuba, as you mentioned, the hospitals. They look to Cuba and say, oh, Cuba's providing free health care for their people. The United States should look to Cuba as an example. But you didn't sound like you were too keen on Cuban hospitals. Tell me about that.
Because I have seen how protesters who have been shot and just beat down to the floor, being ignored by doctors in Cuba. And I think if you want to help others first, you need to help yourself and your own people. So I don't think it's fair for the doctors going to other countries to do jobs and just leave your people dying. That's being a hypocrite.
So even though hospital, like there's free health care, it's not necessarily very good health care.
They are taught very good, but then the actions don't demonstrate what they need to live up doctors need to save lives, no matter if it's your race, your religion, what you stand for. They need to support you. And if they don't, then they are not real doctors. So I don't think doctors in Cuba should be applauded right now. I don't think so.
What do you want what other Americans to know? What should the American people know about what's happening in Cuba?
That what's happening in Cuba can happen anywhere. And the protests are just people standing up for something that they should have done 60 years ago. And everyone can help. It doesn't matter if you're Cuban, because at the end it affects all of us. Like a large part of USA has Cuban community. A lot of people vote for it. And a lot of people are helping the economy. So I don't understand why Americans should not help when it's a great cause they're serving.
And finally, what's your message to President Biden about what's going on in Cuba and showing support for the Cuban people?
President Joe Biden, I please ask you respectfully to do something about the situation. Intervention, military, but also humanitarian, because people are dying right now and I cannot see you being quiet about this. And your government. It's unfair.
Viva Cuba Libre, mi gente. Gracias a todos por venir hoy. Thank you everybody who couldn't make it. I know a lot of people coming from very far places. Sé que vienen de todos lugares de Colorado. Gracias a todos y viva Cuba Libre. ¡Patria y vida!
Yeah, why not? I would vote this one. Why not? I get it.
Patria y vida. Patria y vida. Stop killing Cubans. Down with communism. Freedom for Cubans. Patria y vida.
Maylin Salabaria, this time we're in person.
Yes, we are this time.
What's going on here today?
Well, we have a group of Cuban Americans here in Denver, Colorado, in the step of the Capitol. We are joining our fellow Cubans left behind back in the island that so courageously have taken the streets to protest against the communist dictatorship and to clamor for the freedom that they so rightly deserve. We are here today despite being a smaller group, but we want to make sure that they know that we're here taking the streets of Denver exactly as they are in Cuba right now. And also, so our fellow Americans can learn the exact true reality of what's going on in Cuba since last Sunday.
Succinctly, what is the true reality of what's happening in Cuba?
The true reality is that after 62 years of communist dictatorship, the Cuban population finally had enough, and they have this calling to take up to the streets and protest for freedom of speech. They are requesting and demanding the current government to go away, the Communist Party to be dissolved. They are calling for free and democratic elections, and they are paying the ultimate price for it. At this moment when we are standing here, Cubans are being beat up to death in the streets of the islands. We have, right now, earlier this morning, the last time that I checked the number, it was over 500 people that have been arrested, and some of them, their whereabouts, their family don't even know in which police station they are. Some of the latest numbers say that around 5,000 people were arrested, and then the armed forces and the special police are dragging people out of the houses in the middle of the night. So what's going on in Cuba now or since last Sunday is really historical. It's a turning point. We are here to show them support. Granted, we're not running the risk or paying the ultimate price that they are, but we want them to know that we're supporting the cause of free Cuba, and we want our fellow Americans to know what is going on the island.
You wanted to get across two key messages today, you personally. What is it you want people to know? What are the key points?
So the first message is for President Biden and the current administration is that for things of life, you have landed in your lap a historical opportunity. This is regardless of what happened tomorrow, next month, or in a year. This is a turning point in the history of a totalitarian society that has survived 90 miles from Florida for over 62 years. To the current administration and President Biden, I tell them, this is your Brandenburg Gate moment. Choose wisely. Think about whether you're going to be in the right page of history or not. We are also calling the United States government and the current administration to revoke Executive Order 6867. This order was signed by President Clinton back in 1994 when there was a Cuban rafters crisis, and all other administrations after that have just ratified it. This is the easiest way to do something objective and tangible to help the Cuban people that are being massacred in a genocide on the island. Now, this action is just a stroke of the pen that the current president of the United States could do right now, and it would allow private citizens, whether they're Cubans or not, to do as they wish with their private property, and it would allow us to organize a humanitarian flotilla to bring food and needed medications to the island directly to the people without having to deal with the government that we know steals donations and then sells them in the hard currency that most Cubans have no access to. In general, I guess that the sentiment and the message that we all have here for the current administration is to paraphrase the great characters of the founding of this nation, is that by Almighty God, we don't know what other people will do, but Mr. President, as for us, as for me, they're gonna have to give us liberty or death.
And anything else you want the American people to know about why Cubans in America are standing up, why they should stand up for the people of Cuba?
Because right now, we know that it's the Cuban population unarmed, without freedom to associate, without freedom of speech. They are the ones that are being massacred. The unelected president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, he literally called for a genocide and a civil war on Sunday on live TV. It is important because we are talking about freedom that today might be in Cuba, but we never know when it's going to be, when the same danger to lose that freedom is going to be knocking on our doors. For my fellow Americans, for our children that were born in America and made with Cuban parts, is the same message that we have. Do not take your freedom for granted. Look at it, we have paid the ultimate price in innocent Cuban blood and life for that mistake. Learn from ours and do not take your freedom for granted.
My name is Nick Rodon. I'm here to protest the U.S.'s silence towards the violence in Cuba.
Say silence toward the violence in Cuba. What do you mean by silence? What are you not seeing from the current Biden administration?
Well, Cuba is undergoing extreme violence because the people are protesting and the government doesn't like it. And the United States has not even gone so far as to condemn it.
Yeah, it's so striking when you see how they're trying to it's hard to see what they're doing here. They're not wanting to get involved in some way and speak strongly, but why not? I don't know. But what do you make of that silence? What does that tell you?
I think it tells me that the U.S. is afraid of the repercussions that might come from Russia, from China. I don't know. But it tells me that they're afraid of something.
From your experience as your mother, Maylin, I've interviewed a couple of times, and such powerful testimony from her, what is it that you have learned from her about Cuba that has made you think, look, we really need the United States to take a leadership role here?
I've learned that Cuba, it's our homeland and it's beautiful, but our people are kept under an iron fist, and they have been for decades, for over half a century. And now our people are finally rising up to challenge that dictatorship, and the rest of the world is silent about it.
Now, how old are you, Nick?
I'm 14.
So being 14, your entire life, this Cuban regime has continued, starting, as you said, many decades ago, 59 or so, I think, with Fidel. How has it lasted this long, and what do you think is waking up people around your age or a little older than you to younger millennials that they are leading so many of the protests?
Well, I think that at first, at the very least, the regime lasted because people believed in it. But after that, it was fear. As Machiavelli once said, it is better to be feared than to be loved. But I feel that my people and my people of my generation are finally revolting because what do they have to lose? My generation has grown up in a world where the rich and corrupt have all the power and the average man has none. Everyone lives in a flawed democracy or worse, in a dictatorship. And so the people have realized that they have nothing to lose. They've decided that it's better to die for liberty than to live under oppression.
What kind of oppression exists in Cuba?
The people are not allowed to speak freely. They're not allowed to open their own businesses. They're not allowed to, in reality, have any freedoms that we have here.
I mean, your mother's a small business owner. That's not something you can easily do at all in Cuba, is it?
Absolutely right.
What does that say to you about how the American government is so silent, yet there are so many freedoms that we take for granted here that are completely not allowed there, including starting a business, let alone to protest and speak your mind out in the streets or to use freedom of the press?
Well, as a lot of people who follow geopolitics and that kind of stuff know at this point, the U.S. is backing out of the rest of the world. The Soviets are gone and China's too powerful, so we have nothing left to do for anyone else. So now that the U.S. is backing out, I feel that that's just another reason that they don't care at all about Cuba.
What is your message to the American people? What do you want them to know about what's happening?
At first, I believed in President Joe Biden. I thought he might bring change. Right now, I feel that that may have been foolish to think that anything could change, but I hope to be proven wrong.
What should Americans know about what's happening on the ground in Cuba that maybe they're blissfully unaware of?
The people are rioting. The people want freedom, and the government is sending the black wasps after them. Imagine as if the riots that we had just about a year ago, if the FBI and SWAT teams were sent to murder people out in the streets.
And finally, what do you want to see done? What should we be doing about it?
Well, at the very least, I want the U.S. to allow or to give Cuba access to internet so that the people can be educated and that they can know that there are people like us on the outside and that they're not alone.
Libertad, 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 libertad.
Because they're daring to take the streets to ask for freedom. And I find extremely hypocritical that we have organizations with such big power to mobilize social justice movements, and all of a sudden our families, our friends, our young kids, the people that we left behind are being massacred in a genocide order by the Cuban government, and all that we hear is crickets. All that we hear is crickets. So as someone who was born and raised in Cuba, I left Cuba in 2001. My question is, do all black lives really matter, or are some more equal than others? Why are we not hearing a clamoring from the social justice movement, from the human rights defenders in this country about what's going on in Cuba? I mean, I understand that with the censorship and the propaganda and the media control from the dictatorship in the past 60 years, the rest of the world have received a very distorted reality of what really happens in Cuba. But after Sunday, having even censored internet and social media, with many of us outside Cuba translating the videos, the messages, the text into so many languages, that's our goal today, to let our fellow Americans know what's really happening.
I want to hear the specifics, because I want you to imagine that I'm a human being that works 80 hours a week and doesn't use social media, but maybe I'm watching this on a live stream. I hear it across another channel. Somebody connects me to this. What happened on Sunday specifically?
I can give you a good example. On Sunday specifically, like an organic and spontaneous series of small protests and marches started in Cuba. They started
What city?
It started in a small town called San Antonio de los Baños. So it was not even like in big metro city areas. It started actually in the small towns, in rural areas, where the situation is even more critical for the average Cuban. It started in San Antonio de los Baños, and then it started spreading the word all over the island, to the point that now, tomorrow is going to be a week, and Cubans are still taking the streets to protest. Granted, the situation in the country has been really bad for 62 years. Those are the results of collectivization and centralized economies, just an utter failure, where the elites of the government promise the people a lot of things, and at the end they don't do anything. Everybody lives like a destitute in utter poverty, and those in the high elites of the army, the government, and the Communist Party are the only ones that have the good life that they promise. So all this started on Sunday, and it has been rolling into the week. And I can give you a quick example. The only fatality right now publicly recognized by the Cuban government was a black rapper that was younger than 32. He was shot in the back in the middle of the streets in Cuba by a police officer. His mother couldn't take it. He was his only son, and his mother committed suicide yesterday. It came out in the news that she took a bunch of pills and she killed herself because she couldn't bear the pain of her only son being shot in the back in the streets of Cuba.
Tell us his name again.
The Ubis.
The
The and everybody that can see these live videos, and if you want to go online on social media, you look for the hashtags that read SOS Cuba or Patria y Vida, and you are going to find all the information with little short videos and everything that we have been able to get out of the island. You're going to find that information too, because as of yesterday in the evening, it was already being picked up by media in English. And that is just one example.
So have there been, how many people are you saying that you are aware of have died over this incident since Sunday? What kind of incidences? Are there group situations in villages where the police or the military have come out and assaulted? Have they killed people? Tell us more details.
Been militarized now. So we have the army, we have the special forces, which are the ones that have the anti-battle gear, which is very ironic because they're saying that it's the fault of the United States that the country is in trouble, but they seem to have a lot of money to have top of the line armed to the kids, special forces to repress people that want to pay for freedom. So at this point, as we speak here right now, the Cuban streets are fully militarized. They have taken the young kids that are on the mandatory a military draft. We're talking about young men that are between 17 and 20 that were supposed to be like on call on the reserve. They are being dragged out of their houses. They're being given baseball bats, and they're being taken to towns that are not their own, so they can go on the streets on the best fashion of the brown shirts and beat up the protesters. Yesterday, the Cuban government and universities and places of employment, they started making their employees sign a statement saying that they would side up with the revolution, and if they didn't show up to the protest organized by the government today, they were going to be fired or they would be in jail. So that's the situation of the streets and all the towns in Cuba today.
Where does this go from here?
Hopefully to a better place. And you know why? Because we got nothing to lose.
Do you think that this is going to be like a war zone? People can respond to these lawbacks?
Cuban people cannot respond as a war zone because we don't have Second Amendment rights. I mean, my fellow Americans, get with the program. The first thing that Castro did when he took over was to abolish the right to bear arms and to confiscate arms from the population. They have nothing. They are outside in the streets with stones and sticks and their voices. That's all they have. But going back to the question, the only place that we can go from here is a better place. And you know why? Because it's rock bottom. Nothing can get worse than back to 62 years of communist dictatorship anymore. So whatever comes from here, it might not be pretty at first. It might take us many years to rebuild the country, but I have hope and I know that we're going to be able to get the country out of power, that we're going to have free elections, and that Cuba will go back to be a free and democratic society. You're welcome.
¡Abajo el comunismo! ¡Abajo el socialismo! ¡Abajo la dictadura!